I've been so annoyed and frustrated. Thank God these rhymes aren't getting graded, because I'm sure they'd hate it. I'm just so tired. I just keep failing to be inspired by anyone, really, or anything. Well, we'll see. It's the Bar for Bar Weekly. It's the Bar for Bar Weekly for the week of June 12th, 2020. Before we talk about what's going on in the news, I want to remind y'all that in the description of this video, there are links to petitions and places you can donate to. Every little bit counts. You know what you're signing for, and you know what you're donating for. I don't have to tell you. Every little bit helps. Please do what you can. Now, let's get into it. So we'll start off with some just random news. First of which being Kodak, who I guess he just got a bunch of his weapons charges dismissed because he signed a plea saying that he'll go to rehab. And now, I'm not really the biggest fan of Kodak. I don't really like him as a person. But I appreciate that he's trying to do good for himself. And we'll see where he goes from here. Who knows, maybe he'll end up like Gucci. Speaking of people that we don't typically care about, Tekashi 6ix9ine. And at this point I feel like I need to have like a whole graphic set up just for when I talk about Tekashi 6ix9ine, because he comes up every week now. But instead of just doing one crazy thing this week, he did two. The first of which is apparently he's recording Locked Up Part 2, which, as you can imagine, is the sequel to Locked Up Part 1 by Akon. And it's, I don't know, I guess it's what people wanted. I mean, someone was probably just like, yeah, you know what we really need now? We need a Part 2 to Locked Up. And you know who would be great to be on it? Snitch 9, I'm 6ix9ine. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic. Anyways, he also dropped a track with Nicki, which is also a track that everyone clearly wanted. So go check that out if that's what you're into. Speaking of random news, Coachella is officially canceled this year, and I don't know that anyone really should be surprised at this point, because did y'all really think it was going to come? Like, even after it got delayed and what's going on in the world? Really? Anyways, they say that they're planning on pushing it for next year. So I think they said April 2021. The goal is to have fewer people in attendance, which makes sense. Only downside is for those of you who buy your tickets resale, expect to spend more because there are fewer tickets out there. Moving on though. So Pop Smoke's album was supposed to come out, I think this week or next week. It was relatively soon. But that got delayed to July 3rd. And I'm okay with that, because that just means that they're going to put a little bit more time into it and, clean some things up. And I like that they're taking their time with it, because I don't need a rushed album from a rapper who's recently passed away. Like, look at what happened with X. They went and released, I think, 2 albums at this point after he passed away, and they haven't been very good. I understand that there's labels and people involved, but did y'all really think it was a good idea to just release half-finished songs? At least with this, it feels like we're going to get a more complete project, at least considering they decided to wait a little bit. So maybe that means they're actually going to put more time into it and actually make it good. I mean, I'm excited. I'm going to listen to it anyway. But good on them for taking their time. That's it for the random news. Let's get into the main topics. First of which is from Republic Records. So, this week, in their words, the label will no longer use the word urban to describe job titles, departments, and genres. They go on to say, urban is rooted in the historical evolution of terms that sought to define black music. As with a lot of our history, the original connotation of the term urban was not deemed negative. Nearly 50 years ago, Frankie Crocker coined the term urban to define the sound of his radio station in an attempt to better represent his audience. However, over time, the meaning and connotations of urban have shifted, and it developed into a generalization of black people in many sectors of the music industry, including employees and music by black artists. While this change does not and will not affect any of our staff structurally, it will remove the use of this antiquated term. We encourage the rest of the music industry to consider following suit, as it is important to shape the future of what we want it to look like, as to not adhere to the outdated structures of the past. Thank you. Because for years, people have been saying, use other words to describe black music. Like, why does all black music have to be urban? Like, even recently, Tyler, when he won the Grammy for Igor, was like, I don't like the word urban. It's just like a category that they give people that look like him. I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said. And it's stupid. It's like, black people can make music that isn't necessarily urban. But speaking of the Grammys, they also kind of restructured their categories a little bit. So the urban category no longer exists, and there's just some other changes in general. Best Urban Contemporary is now Best Progressive R&B. Best Rap/Sung Performance is now Best Melodic Rap Performance. Best New Artist no longer has a specified maximum number of albums. I didn't read too much into it, but I would assume there's still like a time frame to consider, but just not how much music you put out. And for some reason, Latin Pop album is now Latin Pop or Urban album. So they didn't really get rid of the word urban. They just kind of shifted it to another group of people. Do better. Come on now. And moving on from that. So YG recently dropped a track, FTP. You know what it stands for. And then this week, during the protest in LA, he went down and basically shot a music video during the protests. This was sponsored by Black Lives Matter LA and Build Power. So it's not like he was just alone in saying, this is a good idea, I'm going to go do this. But most people, including myself at first, was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. You probably shouldn't be using what's going on to promote yourself like that. And I mean, I think most people still agree with that. I mean, I'm still not a fan that he did it that way, but I understand. The music video has come out, and actually it dropped today. And I mean, it's well done, but I'd rather him not take advantage of what's happening. I don't know. There's other ways to do it. Yeah, so YG also said, or he acknowledged the criticisms, and says that he wants to kind of break down stereotypes of him and people like him. So like rappers and people who are gang affiliated. People just assume that he's violent. He's just gonna start stuff. but he wants to show that like he can keep things peaceful and appropriate. This is just a very vague paraphrasing. I'm sorry. Moving on. So yesterday, Gucci tweeted out that he is going to be leaving Atlantic Records on July 3rd and calling them polite racists. This isn't the first time that someone's called out Atlantic. It honestly sounds like one of the worst labels to be on. So good for Gucci for getting out there. Getting out of there, I mean. And then, this week, Andre 3000 released a bunch of shirts that were based off of his Outcast jumpsuit from when they did their reunion tour. All the profits are going to Black Lives Matter charities. And the shirts are a bit pricey, but, you know, check them out. And I mean, you can feel good that at least the money that you're spending is going to a good cause. I just personally can't afford a $75 t-shirt right now. Speaking of donations, Stormzy pledged to donate $10 million over the next 10 years to organizations fighting racial inequality. I'm all for it. There's really nothing to say about that. Like, I'm glad he's doing this. That's about all I got for news. Albums this week are pretty light too, or music in general that released. The first album was from Key. The album is I Love You, Say It Back. The second project is from RMR or Rumor, or I don't know how you want to pronounce them, or him. But he dropped his debut EP, Drug Dealing is a Lost Art. I really like it. There's nothing not to like about it. And then finally, the main just single track that really caught my ear this week is from Spillage Village, titled End of Days. The Spillage Village album's coming soon, and I'm super excited for it. I mean, we'll see. It should be coming soon. I mean, at least I hope so. Well, that's about all I got. I mean, a lot of stuff happened, but, you know, just something to talk about. Comment below with music that you've been listening to this week, or music that you're excited about this week. Also, tell me how you feel about YG and him making that video out there. Because I feel like the general public is like, ooh, but maybe you have a differing opinion. Let me know. And as always, like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. That's all I got. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.